What's wrong with the world? Oppression, violence, war, hipsters. How do we solve those issues? Weapons, tyrants, terrorists, more designer fairs like the ones downstairs? We can't solve those issues. It's human nature. But what if we try to influence human nature? Perhaps with words, maybe even a speech. A brilliant speech like mine? Sounds impossible, right? Well, I say a teenager could do it, just like Malala did. Malala Yousafzai realized something was incredibly wrong when the Taliban didn't let her go to school. So she decided to stand up to this social injustice, not just for herself, but for everyone who can't. Education is one of the most important human rights, yet we fail to recognize the relevance of it. Some people see education as our future, and the prospect of a good job is indeed a handy treat. But education has more than only economical purposes. For me, education has changed my personality. It didn't just teach me things like the Pythagorean theorem or the French Revolution or other things that I use outside of class all the time. The most important contribution education made to my life is believing in myself. I believe that with everything I'm taught, I have the future to achieve great things. Even if it's something like making the best brownies ever. The secret ingredient is love, by the way. I feel everyone deserves education, so everyone can have the opportunity to believe in themselves. Unfortunately, imagine people taking away our education. Do you think we would fight back with violence? If there's one thing I have learned during history lessons, is that violence is never the answer. Malala could have fought the oppression she had to undergo differently. Although she almost lost her life violently, she fought back with words. She decided she wasn't just going to sit back and stay quiet. No, she said no. And how can it be that something as simple as saying no has only given fame to so few? Mandela, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, they all show us the example. Yet we find it difficult to say no ourselves. In our society, all wonder when someone is going to do something about things, conveniently letting themselves out of the equation. We don't have to change the world, thank God, but we can make small differences. Small things can make a big difference in someone's life. Fortunately, a lot of people don't even try, and there are even some people in denial of the problems in our society, like sexism and racism. And let's look at sexism, for example. Ladies, how many times did you have to deal with a sexist remark? And men, did you ever make a sexist remark? You don't have to raise your hand. See, men still have a higher salary than women. And we just live in a twisted world. And call me a pessimist, but I don't believe that everything is going to be all right one day and everyone is going to be just as happy. But that doesn't mean that a person who fights for a cause is doing it without a result. There are a bunch of social workers and human rights activists who made a difference. So I'm going to say an absurd thing. But what if we try to make a difference? And I'm not telling you to hop on the first plane to Pakistan and protest on the streets. No, I'm telling you to make a tiny effort. Next time you see someone crying, comfort them. Speak up for them. Next time you see someone getting bullied, stand up against a bully and tell him you do not agree with his action. Because we have to remember that words remain our most powerful weapons. And I know that a word is not an actual weapon. It's not like you can kill someone with a word. You could try throwing a book at someone, but then again, I'm not making any suggestions. We should use our words for good. Malala used her words for good. And like Gandhi once said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And that is why I'm standing here today, completely out of my comfort zone, trying to influence your little worlds with my little words. Thank you.
What have you fought for in your own life?
I usually try to stand up for myself. I try to stand up for my friends. And sometimes I have to deal with like sexist remarks in class. Some of the boys, they like to joke around, and I usually call them out on that. And sometimes I had to deal with racist remarks because I'm Moroccan, and people always tell me to go, yeah, not always. Some people told me to go back to my country, but I'm like, from Belgium. I was born here, so I'm not going back. And I stand up for myself, and I try to stand up for everyone who can't. Thank you.
So we should stand up for what we believe in, and we should say no when we feel like we should. There are people in the world saying no to women's rights. Acceptable or not?
Unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Everyone deserves rights. We all deserve equal rights. And I'm not telling you that women are better than men. No, everyone is equal. And it doesn't matter whether you are a boy or a girl or you're transsexual. Everyone deserves to have the same opportunities.
But then how do we decide which opinions are worth hearing and which aren't?
Could you?
For example, a person saying that women's rights aren't necessary. How do we decide that opinion isn't as worthwhile as someone isn't as good as someone saying that women's rights should be respected? Who gets to decide that?
Well, no one gets to decide that. Of course, everyone has their own opinion, and it's difficult to try to change an opinion. But if the most people have a good opinion, you can actually unite and make sure people hear your opinion and maybe inform people, educate them about your opinion if you feel your opinion is right.
You talked about the importance of education. Can you explain then why, at least in the West or in Europe, you have so many dropouts from school?
Well, first of all, school isn't very exciting all the time, and teenagers, it's just part of who we are. We try to stand up and rebel, and then we make bad decisions. Everyone makes bad decisions. And if you decide to drop out, you do know that it's going to have a consequence on your future. You do know that you might not get a good job. But if you really want to, I guess it's all up to you. So, thank you.
How could you make school more exciting?
More field trips. Yeah, more field trips. More fun teachers. Not every teacher is just as fun. Yeah.
You talked about bullies. Why is it so difficult for us to stand up to them, even though we know we should?
Well, at first you have to find the courage to actually stand up. And for a lot of people, that's difficult. Even I find it difficult to stand up sometimes. But another thing about bullies is that they're still intimidating. But you have to try. You don't know what you don't have anything to lose. You might get bullied too, but isn't it worth it if you can actually try to help someone else and make a change in their life?
There is a website called Sassy, where women share or people share their stories about sexism at the academic level, so at universities. How do you feel about this sexism still occurring at the most educated levels of our society?
Well, sexism has been around for so long, and it's hard to just shake that off. And maybe that is one of the reasons why it's still around. It doesn't matter how well educated you are, you could still be sexist. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kadi.